Is it cheaper to build a house or buy one on the market? You're going to want to watch this video because we're going to talk about that right now. Hi, this is Melody Wilson with the Real Life team at Remax Elite. Thank you so much for coming back to our channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of the new videos. So today we're going to talk about if it's cheaper to build a home versus buying resale. How can you get the cheapest per square footage for your dollar? Now, that's something that it's almost cringeworthy. I'm not a huge fan of price per square foot because it always depends on the location, the type of home that you're buying, in terms of what you're getting per square foot. We're going to talk today about how you can save money in building a house, what's the best cost-effective ways to build a house for the most amount of value for your dollar. So what's the best option for your family? As a mom, I know that we've got other things other than housing expenses to consider. Groceries, kids' activities, school stuff, like there's so many things and the list goes on and on, right? So what I want and suggest that you do is take a look at your budget and figure out what percentage is going towards your housing, what's your plan to have for housing budget. Now, obviously housing is going to be the largest portion of your spend, but it shouldn't be 50%. That's going to put you in a very not fun place to be. So you want to make sure 20 to 30%, again, depending on the income that you guys make. And don't forget to talk to a mortgage broker. Even though you might have this amount figured out for your budget, you got to figure out from the mortgage broker what you're qualified for. Your mortgage amount may be different than what you're actually okay to spend, maybe less or more. So you want to make sure you get that big check out of the way. So once you figure out what is a reasonable amount of money to spend, then what you want to do is chat with someone like myself. A professional realtor is going to sit down and assess your situation and see, this is your budget and this is the type of house that you want. Now, if we're talking about new builds, we work a lot with the new builders. We have lots of relationships with all the different builders in the city and have a lot of knowledge to help you, not just through building the cheapest home, but just walking you through the entire process so that you're not overwhelmed at any stage. So let's dive right into how do we save you money for that. So some of the things that we can do to save you money on building a home, first is location. So in the suburbs of Edmonton, that's where all the new builders are. You can build in the city. So a quick caveat there is it's not the cheapest, obviously, to build in the city because you have to buy a house, take the house down. The lot itself is worth a lot more money. To build cheap there is going to be very difficult and challenging. There are strategies that we can take, which is another video, but I'm talking more so of how do you build cheaply with the builders around the city. So when you're building with a builder that is doing tons of volume and they're a bigger builder, they're typically able to pass along cost savings to you versus a smaller builder. Smaller builders don't have the buying power that a larger builder has. Larger builders are located in a lot more locations. Your location in northeast, southeast Edmonton, the lots are cheaper there than they would be in west, northwest, and southwest. So if you're looking to save some cost, you want to take a look at location. However, you may have your whole family and schooling and everything in the West End, so you're not going to go move to the southeast just to save money. So let's talk about how do we save you money if we're going to build in the West End, for example, because your whole life is in the West End. So like I just mentioned earlier, think about the different builders and which ones are going to be the best effective price for you. If you work with a realtor like myself who has relationships, I can guide you as to which builders are good and why, and what are the pros and cons of each builder and why you should work with them. Today, we're going to talk about how to save money. So saving money is, for example, if you want to custom your home, you want to take a look at the builders that can do semi-custom, that don't charge you. There are builders that will not change anything, or builders that will change at a cost, and other builders that will not change at a cost. So you want to take a look at those. Take a look at the floor plans that they offer. Again, larger builders have a lot more selection of homes that you can choose and kind of piece together. And then the smaller builders have a lot more limited options. They're not going to have hundreds of floor plans. So that's going to also cost. They may be fine changing things, but it just all dependent. Now, a big caveat, when you're changing layouts to save money, make sure you have somebody who knows what they are doing. Not all sales reps are alike. Not all realtors are alike. So you want to make sure you have the right team on your side to make sure that we're guiding you through and we know what that layout is going to look like after it's done. Because you might have shaved off some square footage to save money. Is that going to affect the overall look of the home and feel of the home, the resale of the home? What things are you cutting to save the budget? So we want to make sure that we're cutting things in the places that make sense and the home is still going to be a dream home. Now, we kind of skipped over this, but are you a first-time home buyer or are you upgrading into your dream home? Those are things to consider when you're looking at the cost of building a house. For example, if you're a first-time home buyer, I want you to stay within the standards and I want us to do the best we can do within the parameters to save you that money, because we want to build you equity. That is like the primary goal, because as a first-time home buyer, you're probably going to be moving out of that house in maybe 5 years or less. And so we don't want to go too crazy. I mean, you may think that you might stay longer, but if it's a first-time home, like a duplex, townhouse, or a zero lot line, even entry level, like size in terms of 1,800 square feet or smaller, you kind of want to be really careful with that because we want to gain you that equity. If you're building your dream home and it's 2,000, 2,500 square feet, it's bigger, you have a little bit more leeway because we do know you're probably going to stay longer. But big caveat is we also never know what's happening in life. So I want to make sure to help guide you along to spend the money in the right places. So let's talk about the pros and cons of new builds in terms of the cost, because we're talking all about, is it possible to actually, get a cheaper home than just buying resale? Well, lot size is going to be smaller. That's a con. But the cost is a lot cheaper. When you're buying resale, you've already got the lot and the house built. Everything's done. When you're building, obviously you have to wait. Now, there are some places where they're already starting the build and then you can kind of come in there. But usually you're starting from scratch. So there's a longer time delay to wait versus just moving in and knowing you're going to get your house in 60 to 90 days. The pro of a building is that you're in a brand new neighborhood, new amenities, new everything. Con, you're going to have probably nails in your tire at one point. It's construction zone. It's going to be a little bit loud. Your house may shake if the neighbor is digging a hole to put their foundation in. Another pro of building, you get to pick everything that you want. Con of not building, you don't get to choose every little detail that you want. Is that super important? That's up to you to decide. So that's just a quick pros and cons list to think about if you should be doing this and if the savings in money is actually worth the resale. So let's talk about how do we save you money when building. So what we need to do is write a whole wish list of everything that you want in your home. And I'm talking about doing this before we write an offer. The first stage would be to figure out what lot we want. So when we have sit down for a buyer consult, we're going to talk about your budget requirements and your location. And then we're going to look at the different options and different builders. Once we figure that out, I want us to figure out what are the things that you want. What are the must-haves? What kind of layout structure? What kind of finishings? All those things are important because when we write an offer, the initial offer, and we have everything in there, we can negotiate that whole pie. Once you remove conditions, yes, you can change things and add things and whatnot, but you don't have a bartering power anymore because you've already removed conditions. They know you're buying and building with them. So there's no way for us to get that price down. You pay what it is that they charge for that upgrade. So that's a really important thing for us to decide, and we will work through every little step of the way. People wonder if it's even possible to get that much detail done before you write an offer, and yes, it is. We can definitely figure all that out. I don't want you to put an offer on a property that you're not 100%, 120% sure that this is your dream home. So when you work with a realtor like myself, I am going to get you the best deal, and that's a huge way to save money because when I have a relationship established and I'm able to use that relationship for all of my clients, it's going to save you money. It's very important that you're working with the right team when you're doing this, and we have lots of different options all across the city and in the surrounding areas of Edmonton to make sure that you get the best deal. Now, the pricing has changed over the last 4 years. So 4 years, we've been declining market. We've been seeing a lot of incentives. However, recently, if you're watching this video at this 20, lumber prices have gone up. The demand has skyrocketed for homes, And so the cost is starting to rise and the discounts are starting to go down. Now, depending on when you watch this, we may or may not have a whole huge amount of discount off. However, we're still always able to do something to give you some sort of incentive and some sort of deal. And like I mentioned, there's different things we can do to give you a better deal. There's different things that builders can do ahead of time that's worth the cost versus waiting until after. Another great savings that you can have is picking a floor plan that is already done by the builder. If you just have a few modifications, it's going to save you a lot of money than building a completely custom home that has nothing to do with any of the floor plans that the builder has. That's why it's very advantageous to work with builders who have multiple hundreds of floor plans versus just a select few. And myself and Billy with Pacesetter Homes, we are a really strong team. She has very strong custom expertise, and myself as a realtor who's also built a couple homes myself and never mind walked tons of clients through the process. We know what questions to ask to make sure that we're finding all the things to save you money. What are some of the things that we can do? Finding a knowledgeable sales rep is so important. They're going to know about all the deals and incentives that developers are doing, the builders are doing, and then how to utilize the floor plan to get you what you want and the price that you want. So if you have more questions on how to save money and if it's really a good deal, in recap, you can still get a really good deal to build your home. You have to be careful with where you spend your money. Sometimes resale is the better option because there's no other option to just get your home instantly unless you are buying a spec home with a build. Now that can be an option for you to save money. The whole house is built, it's ready to go, and they want to offload it. They don't want to have that sitting on their books because they're paying money. There's one way for you to save some money. They're using the cost that it would have cost them 6 to 8 months ago to build versus the current market situation. So if you have any questions on how to build a home, what's best for you and your family, make sure to send me a message, comment down below if there's any more questions that I can answer, and I'd be happy to make more videos. Thanks so much for watching.